First, let me say how much respect and admiration we have for our Border Patrol, for the job they do without the necessary tools to do it correctly, one of which is comprehensive immigration reform. I am President and CEO of Western Growers, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today, not only on behalf of Western Growers, but on behalf of the Agricultural Coalition for Immigration Reform and the National Coalition of Agricultural Employers. Western Growers is an agricultural trade association whose 3,000 members grow, pack, and ship approximately 90% of the vegetables and 70% of the fruits and tree nuts in California and Arizona. That is about 50% of all the produce in the United States. We grow the best medicine in the world. Our farms and ranchers are the open space. We are the green space. Because we derive our living from the land, we are the best stewards of the land. Our members are committed to preserving those resources for future generations of Americans. In summary, my testimony today will focus on the impact of immigration policy on the environment. In addition, we are deeply troubled by the fact that our current enforcement-only approach to immigration policy has forced determined migrants into the often deadly deserts of the southwestern United States. Hundreds of miles of illegal trails and roads have been created from undocumented aliens crossing through refuge lands. This proliferation of trails and roads damages and destroys cactus and other sensitive vegetation, disrupts revegetation efforts, disturbs wildlife and their habitat, and causes soil compaction and erosion. Western Growers believes it is necessary to preserve the environmentally fragile desert lands along the southern border by opening legal channels to migration while securing our borders. At the same time, we recognize that as the border becomes more secure, the human traffickers are forced to direct illegal aliens to areas of the border that have not been used previously for this traffic. This illegal traffic is increasingly moving toward and into very environmentally sensitive federal and non-federal lands and creating environmental havoc. Illegal trails and roads carved by immigrants can destroy vegetation, wildlife habitat, and affect erosion patterns. Conservationists and biologists estimate that it could take over a century for fragile desert soils and plants recover from this damage. Further insult to this precious land is caused by the trash and garbage strewn about by these traffickers. It has been estimated that the average desert walking immigrant leaves behind 8 pounds of trash during a journey that under the best case scenario lasts 1 to 3 days. Assuming 500,000 people cross the border illegally into Arizona annually, that translates to 2,000 tons of trash that immigrants dump each year. According to a report released by Defenders of the Wildlife, one of the nation's most progressive advocates for wildlife and its habitat, establishing a simple and feasible guest worker program is the single most important reform that Congress can enact to protect our precious desert lands. And there is a sensible solution to this problem, which will not only protect environmentally sensitive and federal lands in the Southwest, but will also bolster the national security, benefit the U.S. economy, and provide humanitarian relief. That is a simple, feasible guest worker program. It is axiomatic that a program that allows workers to enter the United States legally directs those workers to enter and establish points of entry, rather than the unforgiving Southwest desert. The bottom line is that the U.S. economy needs additional workers to do many of the jobs that Americans will not do. It is beyond dispute that no one in this audience raises their children to become farm workers. The simple fact is our crops are going to be harvested by foreign workers. The only issue is whether or not the harvesting occurs in the United States, where for every farm worker job, we create 3.5 jobs Americans will do, or whether some foreign economy will benefit from that labor. Our members are reporting labor shortages in increasing numbers throughout California and Arizona. If our farmers cannot obtain an adequate labor supply, they will be forced to sell their farms to to developers, eliminating the open space, or alternatively, they'll move their production, as is happening today, to Mexico or other countries where those willing to agricultural work are plentiful. If our farmers cannot provide the supermarkets and food service companies with locally grown product when they need it, they will find it offshore in Mexico or China. Mr. Chairman, it is hoped that this testimony will provide a pathway that secures our borders, preserves our delicate environmental resources, both public and private, and benefits our economy for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you much, Mr. Nassir. I appreciate your patience in view of the intolerance and the lack of respect of some members of the audience. It just is unexplained and unregarded. Before we go to questions.